Yeah, what's up?
Michael, as some people call you.
Very few, but let's go with it.
Michael Moore, as you've been known to go by.
Yeah, Michael Moore.
We've established you don't really use streaming services.
I do not. Although I do currently have a Netflix subscription so that I could watch the new season of Afterlife. But I literally finished that in a day, so yeah, I have no more use for it. But go ahead.
I don't even know what that show is. But based on that, one could make the assumption that at this time you do not have a Hulu subscription.
I do not. I definitely don't pay for one. I may have access through like a friend who gave me a login, but I if I do, I never bother going on it.
So based on that information, one could assume that you are unaware of Hulu's newest original show.
What is Hulu's newest original show?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. It is a love story about a young girl living in New York City trying to find the one. Based purely on that premise, do you have any guess as to what the title of that show is?
I mean, it just sounds like it's Sex in the City, but I mean, no.
It is not. It is not. It is called How I Met Your Father.
Oh my God. Okay. So no, I do not have a Hulu subscription, or if I do, I don't pay attention to it. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And while I love the fuck out of How I Met Your Mother, How I Met Your Father seems like the biggest pile of fucking bullshit, and I refuse to watch that.
Well, then the good thing that I did, so I can speak about it.
Okay, all right. Tell me what are your thoughts?
So there's only 2 episodes out so far, and to be completely honest, it's not as bad as I was expecting, but it's definitely not good.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be good, but continue.
So I'll give credit where credit is due, okay? The actors are pretty good. They're all doing a pretty solid job. There are some jokes in it that legitimately got a little chuckle out of me, but there are some problems, They're leaning way too hard into like the modern dating scene. Like the first episode, the first thing that happens is like the main character, whose name I don't even remember because they're all pretty forgettable, is that she's running late for a Tinder date.
Okay.
Another this is a really small issue that I have, but another issue that I have is like the show like takes place canonically in 2022, but like there's no reference to or there's nothing about the coronavirus whatsoever. It just doesn't exist in this universe. So they cannot, I don't know if they will, but they cannot make any coronavirus jokes whatsoever because as far as I'm concerned, the coronavirus didn't happen in this universe.
I mean, okay, so I'm fine with them not bringing it up because I've noticed there have been like a few like TV commercials, like I think AT&T Wireless like made a bunch of like commercials where like Lily, their like main character, is like wearing a mask and like distancing, and it's fine, it is what it is, but like, dude, we all have to live with this. Let's not branch this out into like TV where we use that as like an escape.
No. I'm not saying that it's a problem that they don't have the coronavirus. What I am saying is that they cannot make any jokes or references to it because they've already essentially established that it doesn't exist.
No, I'm with you there. No, that works for me. Like, you either need to bring it up and then you can make jokes, or just pretend like it doesn't exist and it's fine because it's a fictional TV show.
Yeah. one problem I definitely have with the show is there's way too many characters in their like little group. You know, the great thing about How I Met Your Mother is like there's like the main five, and there's an occasionally like a sixth. But generally speaking, there's just the five of them. They all have distinct characteristics. They all have a significant impact on the group as a whole, and they're easily, you know, rememberable.
Right.
There's like 7 to 8 characters in this one.
Oh, that's too many. Nobody needs that.
Yeah, it's a bit much. They did.
I was gonna say also the thing that kind of bugs me, and I don't know, I don't want to sound like a real boomer here, but like just looking at still promo photos of the cast, like they tried real hard to make the cast like super diverse, like different ethnic backgrounds. And there's nothing wrong with that, but like I feel like they're just kind of trying to like force it at this point.
I am not going to touch that subject with a 20-foot pole, and I suggest we move on.
I mean, okay.
Nope. Moving on.
All right, fine. I just
no matter how you try to defend it, no matter how you try to talk about it, it will always be seen in a negative light by somebody. I'm not going to talk about it at all.
That's cool. That's cool. It seems really forced. That's all I'm going to say.
I think what they're forcing too hard is they're trying too hard to make it like the original show, but dropping the ball where it counts. Like they have a lot of cutaway jokes, and How I Met Your Mother had cutaway jokes, but they were pretty like infrequent. This one uses them a lot, and they tend to be really short.
Okay, do you have an example?
In like the second episode, they made a joke about how every time the main girl gets dumped by a guy, she listens to the same song on repeat, and then they cut away to her like doing something while listening to that song. Then they came back to like the present time, and then they made a joke about how she listened to it after like a really minor breakup, and then it cut back again to her listening to the music again, and got back to the present. It's like you're cutting away a lot there.
So, I've got to ask. So, how related is it to the original? Is it like one of the children, one of Ted's kids in the new episode, or is it like completely unrelated?
It is mostly unrelated. They did one thing that like there was two ways I could have seen this, right? If it was a good show, then it would be like, oh, a cute kind of homage. But if it wasn't good, and it isn't, then it pisses me off. The main guys live in Ted and Marshall's apartment.
Oh, so that's like the only connection then?
That's the main connection, and they mentioned like when they first introduced that apartment, they mentioned that like, some older couple used to live in here, and they were like, oh, and they let us keep these cool swords on the wall, and then they pan over because you remember the whole swords on the wall above like the bookcase or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. That was like a thing in like multiple episodes.
Yeah, so that's the swords are still there. They inherited the swords. That gave me a good laugh, and that's the word. That's the thing I laughed the hardest at, the fact that they got to keep the swords, and that's only funny because the original show was funny about the swords. So that's not like a check mark in their book as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Yeah, they're just playing off of like somebody else's joke. Ugh.
Yeah, so I don't like that they live in that apartment, but the show is essentially just a direct sequel to How I Met Your Mother, but completely unrelated to it.
Now, see, like I think it would have been cool if they, well, maybe not cool, but I think it would have been better if they maybe like, you know, used one of Ted's kids and like tried to tie it in a little bit more. You know, because we saw like Ted, you know, like progress through life and in the last episode, he's talking to his kids when they're I don't know, 14 or 15. It might have been kind of cool to incorporate those kids or one of them into the new show and base it around them. But
I feel like it wouldn't have worked because they couldn't have possibly gotten, and I'm blanking on his name, but Ted Mosby to appear in the show to be the dad.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's my next question. What do they do the future narration like they did in How I Met Your Mother?
They do, but it's it's weird, man. So okay, so the you know how in all those flashback scenes the camera is pointed at the kids and Ted is just the faceless voice of Bob Saget?
Yeah.
In this one, the girl is the one being filmed as an older version of herself, and she's talking to her faceless son over FaceTime, and he's a fully grown adult not living with his mom.
Oh, okay.
And they're giving her as the older version of her, I feel way too much character and screen time. Because, you really only saw the kids at the beginning or end of an episode, and you'd occasionally hear Bob Saget's narration within the episode. Here, they'll occasionally cut back to it, and she keeps making all these weird sex jokes to her kids, and there was that in How I Met Your Mother, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable in this one.
Oh God, I actually might have to give this a watch now that you're talking about it.
I think don't watch it to support it. Watch it to dislike how much of a butchering it is.
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much gone in expecting that it's just going to be fucking a disaster. And so I kind of wanted to just stay away as much as I could for that reason. But now that you bring it up, I kind of feel like maybe I need to give it at least 1 or 2 episodes just to see how much of a train wreck it actually is.
It's not horrible. It's just painfully mediocre. And that's not a good thing to be when you're the sequel of a really good show.
Yeah. And well, we've talked about that. I feel like that's just kind of how the vast majority of sequels are. They just try to capitalize off of something that was awesome and just kind of fucking mail it in and just make something mediocre because they know people are gonna watch it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this leads into a whole other discussion of just, and I've been saying this for a long time. I am just so fucking sick of the reboots and remakes and late sequels. Just have an original idea and make something out of it. Yeah, can we get some when's the fucking last time you saw an original idea that didn't bomb? When's the last time you saw a new IP that didn't bomb?
Right. No,
it's not nearly as frequent as it used to be.
Yeah. No, I'm actually glad you bring this up. And we go into this without a huge amount of thought that goes into what we're going to talk about, but it seems like every week you or I bring up something that the other person has had some direct experience with recently, and I'm glad you bring up just reboots fucking flopping, because earlier today I got in a little Facebook comment discussion because one of my friends brought up that there's going to be you probably don't know the show, but Quantum Leap. It was a guy, and every episode he would basically teleport, and he would take the place of some other person in time, and he would.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. It was a good show. I liked it. But he had posted a meme, and so he was like, oh, they're going to reboot it. And I was like, damn, you know what? I hope they really don't ruin it because the original was awesome. And so we had kind of got to talking a little bit about the DuckTales reboot. And DuckTales is by far my favorite cartoon of all time. And honestly, probably one of my top 5 TV shows of all time. Like, even though it was a kid's cartoon, I still enjoy the hell out of that. And I watched that series beginning to end. Oh God, it's maybe been 2 years now, but it was super fucking great. And they rebooted it. And my biggest fear was that they were going to ruin it. And, I gave the reboot a shot. I'm glad that they didn't go full on like modern CGI with it. So I'll give them credit there. They did kind of go like a little old school animation, but it's not the same animation as the original. So that
it's not the same animation or tone. I've seen episodes too, and it's not the same at all.
No, it's not. And the other thing that I liked about the original is, it was done in like the late 80s, early 90s, but they didn't make a lot of references to where it really pinned it down to a specific time period. Like, it almost could have been set anywhere between like, I don't know, 1920 and 2000 or something like that. Maybe that's a little off. Maybe say like 1950 to 2000, whatever. But the thing that I hated about the reboot is the couple episodes I saw, they're constantly on like cell phones and tablets. And there was one episode where they're like riding segways. And I'm like, ugh, this is really dating itself to a very specific period of time. And I don't, I don't like that for cartoons. Like, like old school Looney Tunes, like Bugs Bunny and shit like that. Like there's no frame of time. It's just happening. And I like that for stuff like a cartoon. It doesn't need to be relevant to the current time period. And the DuckTales reboot really almost seemed to go out of their way to make it seem current. And I think maybe just to like differentiate itself from the original. And I did not appreciate that.
I feel you, man. I know what you mean. I'm right there with you. I don't like leave modern references in comedy to like more adult humor. When it comes to cartoons, you really don't need to, like, at all.
No.
Referential humor is not nearly as funny to kids as it is to us.
Right. Like, yeah, we understand that. We get it. But, okay, like, kids don't... Yeah, it loses something on a child, and that's not necessary. You just end up dating your product. Like, 20 years from now, that DuckTales reboot is going to be like, ooh, that's cringy. They're riding segways. Like, I just saw like a week ago an article that Segway is going to stop producing segways. And like, I don't know. Ugh. Yeah, it unnecessarily dates itself. It's a cartoon. Like, they're not real people. They don't age. There's no reason to be specifically relevant to a time period.
Yeah, no, I'm right there. I gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know.
The last thing I'll say about How I Met Your Father is that one thing I'll give to their credit, they knew that they couldn't do like a Barney character without pissing people off, so they just didn't even try, which I like.
That's fine.
But to its detriment, I feel like all of the characters are too likable. Like the thing about Barney is that when you look at his actions on paper, we talked about it in a previous episode. Like he's kind of a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, no, we've totally talked about that. Like he's not there for his friends. He's a womanizer and
terrible to women. Like
he's just an all around horrible person. But that is one.
He happily works for like a really horrible company. Like all this stuff.
Oh yeah, his company is super unethical and like
he revels in it.
Yeah, but that's the genius of Barney. Like they managed to fucking pull him off to the point where
he's super endearing.
He's endearing. He's a likable character. Like you want to root for this guy who's just a complete fucking asshole. Like I don't know how the fuck they did it, but it's goddamn it's goddamn genius.
It's a real mystery.
Oh my god.
It's a real fucking mystery. But yeah, with How I Met Your Father, it's like all the characters are just kind of like, oh, regular cool dudes, and it's like, but that's not as entertaining. How are you going to create conflict with a bunch of people who are just like okay people, you know?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say that they created like a female Barney character, like a promiscuous woman who's kind of a shithead, but
no, I would have expected them to, but they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that was too obvious and they didn't want to go that route, but
I just think they knew that if they tried to, one of two things would happen. They wouldn't pull it off or they would piss fans off, and I think both would have happened realistically, and I think they knew that and they just didn't even try. So like that's a point in their favor.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that. Yeah, I'll have to check it out here just so I have some sort of frame of reference, but
yeah, you'll have to give it a look. I feel like, I don't know, like the show feels like it's stuck in like a time period when How I Met Your Mother came out. It doesn't feel like a modernized version of that format. It feels like the same format, but now there are Tinder and Uber jokes.
Ugh. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not that into it. There was a new episode that came out yesterday, like after I stopped watching, I think. So I'll have to watch that. And what I do know is like the first episode was like okay. The second episode was like not good. So they dropped the ball one episode in.
Yeah. I mean, I follow a lot of like How I Met Your Mother on social media, and they've been like blasting the hell out of How I Met Your Father, and I'm just like, ugh. I just kind of just don't want it to be a thing. Like, it's not gonna make, like, even if it was good, it's not gonna make the original better. I don't know. Yeah, it makes me cringe that exists.
Here's the thing, like if they had just called it something else. If they had just called it something else, people would have been like, oh, this is just kind of like a mediocre comedy, and they would have moved on with their time. But people are like review bombing it and like shitting all over it because they tried to take a legacy that was like really well loved and make a mediocre show out of it. And that you can't do it.
Right. The only,
like, man, I can't fucking wait for It's Always Sunny in Los Angeles to release. I can't fucking wait for that.
Right. You know, the only show that I think that kind of went and capitalized a little bit, and it's because it's not directly related. Well, it's not really related at all. Just the humor, and there's a lot of the same people involved in like the writing and directing. But Parks and Rec did a really good job of kind of taking that same direction and style of humor that The Office had and making it their own thing.
Yeah, I'd agree.
You know, like it was somewhat similar, like it was a workplace setting, but it was like, you know, like government building instead of, you know, a paper company. And but
yeah, I feel like they were really, really like leaned into that similarity in like the first couple seasons, but before long found their own footing and ran with it to the point that like by the end, it's really not that similar. Like the longer you watch the show, the less they're like in the quote unquote office, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, I would agree. Like early on, yeah, they did lean on that a little bit, but even then it wasn't like to the point of where anyone was like, oh, well, this is just like The Office in a different setting. Like they were definitely their own thing. They just used that same kind of style of humor in just, a generic workplace setting. So I thought they did a really good job with that. So I applaud them a lot.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on How I Met Your Father. You're gonna have to give it a look and let us know what you think. I'll watch the third episode and see if it gets better than the second episode.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I'm willing to give it a watch, but I mean, I'm going into it with the expectation that I'm not going to enjoy it. Even before you told me anything about it, like just everything in general made me think like this probably isn't going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I went into it expecting to just hate it, and I felt like I was pleasantly surprised by how not awful it is. I just don't think it's good.
Yeah, well, and the thing you were saying, like, they shouldn't try to like piggyback off of like the success of a great show, but at the same time, like a tiny bit of me gets it because like if not, it's just a generic sitcom. Like how many like sitcoms about a group of friends are there that just exist? And most of them are fucking trash. But the ones that are great, but the ones that are good are phenomenal.
You're right. You're definitely right. I'm not going to disagree with you, but like the thing that I have a problem with it is that I wouldn't say it's like, from what I've seen so far, it's like a 1 out of 10 worst show I've ever seen kind of thing. But you look at like reviews of it and you would think it was because people are comparing it to the original. If it had its own identity, I don't think people would hate it as much as they do.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I'm going off of the fact
it would be like forgotten and it would be like not watched that much. You're definitely right, but it also wouldn't be like actively hated.
Yeah. I mean, again, I haven't seen it, so I'm going in fairly blind, but like, yeah, even if it's, above average, even if it's a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, like, it's white noise in the middle of a whole shit ton of other shows that are the exact same fucking thing. And you really have to have something that stands out that makes you awesome. And I didn't mean to make a Barney.
That sounded like such a Barney line. Ted, you gotta have something that makes you stand out and makes you awesome. That was such a Barney line. That was too perfect.
Oh God, no, that's great. I really didn't mean to do that, but yeah, like you've got to have something like a Barney character that like sets your show apart from everything else. And yeah, I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. Like it'd be great if they could pull it off, but not expecting it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like the thing that we as a whole loved about How I Met Your Mother is that like A, it was really funny, and B, like the emotional, sentimental moments were done really well, and this show is handling both to a much lesser degree.
Yeah, I mean, God, How I Met Your Mother was just so great. Like, so I didn't start watching it when it first came out. A friend of mine had mentioned it to me, and I was like, okay, like, tell me about it. And she's like, Neil Patrick Harris is a womanizer. His brother is Wayne Brady, and his dad is Bob Barker. And I was like, All right.
That's the details you were given?
Yeah, pretty much. She was like, yeah, Wayne. She was like, Wayne Brady's his gay brother and his dad's Bob Barker. And I was like, okay, like that sounds pretty fucking funny. I'll give that a shot. And I did, and I fucking fell in love with it. They do a great job of like even like the little stuff that they do, not necessarily on camera, but like the fact that they like definitely went out of their way and found Neil Patrick Harris, who's fantastic. Like I can't picture anyone being more perfect as Barney, but I love that they went and they were like, okay, this is like a player womanizer. Let's go find someone who's homosexual in real life. And like that totally like was like an off camera like joke, and he like owned that so much. Like even in real life, like his social media, like he'll like make references about that, and that's great. I love that they did that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wow. I didn't think we were going to talk about How You Met Your Mother for a half hour, but that's cool.
It's just, man, I was almost hoping you hadn't like heard of this and didn't know it was a thing, but because when I saw it pop up my Hulu feed, I was like, God fucking damn it. And I was like about to click off of it, but I was like, well, there's only 2 episodes and I don't have anything to watch right now. So I just threw it on.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Like, this will give me something to talk about.
Yeah, I gotcha. No, that's cool. Awesome. So, side note, not trying to distract us, but this is episode 53, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you considered like an entire calendar year of episodes, 52, this would be like season 2, episode 1. So good for us.
Season 2, but nothing changes.
Yeah, except nothing changes. I do have to bring up a couple things. I absolutely loved the way that you ended the last episode. With you just saying, well, tell Mike to save it for the next episode. That is fucking hilarious the way you cut that.
I love just cutting off episodes like that. I like doing it both ways. I like really sudden, really jarring intros, and I like really sudden, really jarring outros too.
Yeah, no,
really funny.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. It was kind of funny because Mike's a regular listener. He's listened to every episode, and he'll give me a little feedback about whatever the episode is. So he heard that, and he obviously would have liked for us to talk about his idea, and we might at some point, but he brought up like Jimmy Kimmel. Do you ever watch Jimmy Kimmel? Is that a thing, or is that just a boomer thing?
Dude, no one my age watches talk shows.
Okay, honestly, I don't either, but there's a really funny reoccurring gag that Jimmy Kimmel's been doing, like I think basically almost the entire time he's had a talk show, and he ends every episode by saying, "My apologies to Matt Damon, we ran out of time." Like it's a joke that Matt Damon was supposed to be a guest every day, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, like everybody else went long, no time for you." And so Mike brought that up, and he's like, "Damn, that's kind of funny." So so just thinking about saying like, well, tell Mike to save it for the next episode. That could be really funny as a reoccurring joke. I don't think we necessarily need to do that, but in comparison, that's great.
I gotcha. Well, what did he want us to talk about last episode anyway?
So he wanted us to talk.
He's waited long enough.
Yeah, he wanted us to talk about awkward encounters that we've had. And
oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I talked to you about it like after we had finished recording. And so he had brought up one example. Mike and I have a mutual friend. His name is Jeff. And Mike brought up that there was one time that I don't know, he was somewhere in town, like whatever. We're from a small town, and he saw Jeff's car at his place of employment. And so he like went in to say hi to him, and he like walked in as he was being fired.
Oh no.
And our friend Jeff was like, "Hey, Mike, man, you hang on, you got to give me a second." And then proceeded to like get fired and have to like turn in his keys. And Mike was like, God, that was so awkward at the time, but thinking about it now, it's like fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, you know, whatever. That was years ago. Like Jeff's got himself together now, and you know, he's all straightened out. I'm sure that was probably like right after high school. You know, probably some shitty job or whatever. But yeah, that's super awkward. So he asked me to talk about, us to talk about awkward encounters we've had. And the one that comes to mind, I don't think I brought this up on the podcast. So my apologies if I have, but if I did, it's been long enough. We've gone 52 episodes. I don't remember everything we've talked about for the last 50 plus hours.
I do. I remember every second of every episode. I remember the exact inflection with which certain stories were delivered. So if you've told this one before, I'll know.
Okay. All right. Well, there was one time I was in, actually, you might know the place I'm talking about. It's kind of close to the apartment that you had when you had your roommate.
Okay.
It's a like sports card and comic book store. So that's why
Yes, I do know the one you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. So I was in there one day, and they have like comic book boxes, but I was looking for like old sports programs or, you know, sports magazines, that kind of thing. So I'm like, it's on the bottom shelf, and I'm like knelt down, and I'm like thumbing through like everything in this box. And the store's divided in half. And there's one aisle where like one half is sports and one half is like comics and magic and figurines and everything not sports related that they have. And so like,
so the cool stuff.
Sure. Yeah. If that's the word you want to use, let's go for it. The cool stuff. So I'm like thumbing through this box, and there's a guy, he's looking at whatever's on the other side, and we're like the only two people in the store. And out of nowhere, he's like, well, gonna be held up for the next couple weeks. And I'm like turning around, and I'm like, is this guy talking to me? And he's like, yep. Yeah. Had my hernia surgery last week. And I look over at him, and I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, yep. Yeah. Can't lift anything over 5 pounds. It's going to be another 6 weeks. And I'm just like, I'm thinking in my head, like, dude, I've never fucking met you. I didn't even say hello to you. And you're just out with, yep, hernia surgery. So that's a bitch. Like, that was so fucking awkward for someone I had never even said a single word to. So that for this week, that's my contribution to the awkward moment story.
Did it make you like shop faster where you're like, I gotta get the fuck out of here before he starts showing me pictures?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, why is this guy talking to me? Why is this guy telling me this? But I've kind of found that, like, to some degree, I guess, I don't know if it's like the aura that I give off or it's the way my face looks, but people that I don't know just volunteer very personal information to me without me asking for it. And sometimes it's fun and sometimes I don't like it. That was one situation where I did not like it.
I don't think I would have liked it either.
Speaking of people I don't know contacting me, I last episode I had talked about how I was fucking with that phone.
Wait, are we gonna get to my story?
Yeah, we are, but real quick, there's not a there's not a huge outcome to this, so I just wanted to get it in there before I forgot about it. The last episode we had talked about how I was fucking around with that wrong number, and today I was like, I wonder if I can fuck with them again. It's been like over a week. Like, maybe I'll just send them a text. And the text I sent them, which they didn't respond to, so it's kind of dead, but I said, do you have D's for the Smithfield presentation? Joe was asking. Because
love it.
Like, I really wanted them to either say like Joe who or what do you mean by D's? And I tried setting them up and they just didn't say anything. So that's the end of that. It's not really a big thing. But yeah, I wanted to get that in there at some point.
Gotcha.
So what?
Well,
yeah. What's your awkward encounter?
Well, actually, I couldn't think of one at first, but the one you just told reminded me of one that I had. This was like the day I moved, or a couple days after I moved into the apartment I just moved out of. There was a couple of like little maintenance things I needed to have taken care of, so I had like written them down like when I moved in. That's the way a lot of complexes do. And a couple days later, a maintenance guy came to like get it all fixed up. And so this guy comes in, he's super nice, and starts getting to work on fixing everything. And eventually he spots Luna, who's in the apartment, obviously, and he's telling me about how he used to have a cat that looked just like her, and I was like, "Oh, that's cute. Do you have any pictures?" And he's like, "Oh, no, I don't, unfortunately." And then it kind of goes quiet for a minute, and he's like, "Yeah, she ran out into the street and got hit by a car."
Oh, that's not funny, but it is.
No, and I was like, Oh, that's really sad. That sucks. And he was kind of like, yeah, I haven't gotten a cat since then. I don't feel like I can trust myself with one. And I was like, what the fuck do you want me to say to that?
Right. Like, bro, you could have just left it at, I had a cat that looked just like that. And that would have been the end of it.
That would have been like a great, like, relatable conversation between two people who just met, and then you could have gotten the fuck out of my apartment. We could have never spoken to each other again.
Oh my God, that is so awkward.
It was so weird because I was sitting there like, what do? I go like full therapist mode and be like, you need to forgive yourself. Like, what do you want me to say?
Right. What are you expecting out of me? Like, it's almost like you were dying to tell that story, and you happen to stumble upon someone who has a cat and gave you an open to tell that. Like, ugh, you got to talk to somebody, bro.
Yeah, dude, I like could not wait for him to leave my home because I did not know how to deal with that.
Oh man, that's great, dude. Mike,
it's like, you ever have a random maintenance guy come over and unload some emotional shit on you?
Mike, I've got to thank you for this topic. This is, even if it's not a reoccurring thing, we've at least told some good stories out of it, so I like it. Oh God, that's great.
Oh, it was the worst, man.
So the last episode we talked a lot about Darius. And
we sure did.
We did. It was like a good half hour solid of just Darius talk. And I sent Andre a text yesterday because I know he frequently listens. In fact, he listened to us when he was visiting Brazil around Christmas time. That's where our Brazil listens came from. But he thought it was hilarious, and he gave me like a bunch of other like Darius stories to tell. We don't have to necessarily tell him now, but God, I forgot about so much shit. But no, he like loved that, and he was like, God, I was listening to it, and like I just kept picturing myself in that situation for everything you were talking about. So I'm super glad for that. At least one person in the world appreciated us talking about Darius. So thanks, Andre. Good on you.
I'm glad he got a kick out of that.
Yeah. No, he brought up a lot of good Darius stories that I completely forgot about. So yeah, at some point we'll need to circle into those, but it doesn't necessarily have to be today.
We should hold off since we just unloaded so many of them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like at first I thought maybe like, oh yeah, let's bring it up and let's keep rolling with it. But that work stories are good when we can like spread them out, So who knows, maybe a month from now we'll bring them up and circle back to that and have another Darius episode. But yeah,
sure.
And there has been there's been a topic that I've been wanting to bring it up for like 6 months now, and I'm not gonna go full into it because I feel like we could potentially cover a whole episode with it. But we're kind of getting close to the end, so I don't want to bring up a whole new bag of worms right now. But at some point, I'm gonna drop something on you that I think could potentially be a lot of fun, and we could have close to a whole episode on. But while we're talking with a little bit of time left, have you had anything interesting happen over the last week?
I mean, I was going to talk a bit about a game that I played on stream, which I know you don't get all the time, but I think you'll find this story funny.
I did. I don't know if this is what you're going to talk about or not, but I did. I think it was yesterday. I did pop into your drawing stream where you were drawing Luna.
So let me explain that. On Twitch, you know, when you become an affiliate, you have emotes for your channel that people can use in your chat, like custom emojis essentially. And like I had, I already had a few, but over the past few months, I've unlocked a lot more, mostly because Twitch has gotten a lot more generous about it. So when I first became a Twitch affiliate, you got just 3 emote slots. And so I filled up all 3 of my emote slots by commissioning an artist to make emotes for me. Before long, I unlocked a 4th emote slot, and we had this emote that was just a picture of me on a rainbow background that we use a lot in my Discord. So I was like, I'll just make this an emote. So I did that. But then, like, over the past year, Twitch gave a lot of extra emote slots to like people who are at affiliate level, and then they introduced follower emotes where like anyone who has a Twitch can like have emotes for their followers to use. So between those two things, I unlocked 10 new emote slots.
Oh, and damn, like, nice.
For context, yeah. And so like for context, like the emotes that I had commissioned cost $20 a piece, which isn't a lot, but you know, times 10, that's $200. And I'm kind of broke after moving across the country, you know, it kind of be like that.
Yeah.
So rather than commissioning new ones, I just did a drawing stream where I drew my own emotes based on people's suggestions, and we actually didn't fill up all the slots because it took so long. But we got a good amount of them done, which was fun.
Okay, that's cool. Nice.
They don't look great because it's my art, but you know, it was fun to do nonetheless.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, I kind of popped in. You know, I saw you drawing Luna. It was kind of cool. I didn't stay as long as I necessarily always do, and I didn't bother like chatting or anything. But you know, I like to pop into your streams when I can.
But no, I was going to talk about this game that I played on stream. It's called Inscription. It's pretty popular right now. It's a really unique game. So Inscription is a game where you play a card game against an AI in a little room, and you can like get up from the table where you're playing cards, and like the room you're like trapped in is also kind of like an escape room. Like you have to solve puzzles to like get more cards, or like get keys to like open things that might get you out of the room. And it's a really cool game.
I not to interrupt you, but I popped in one day when you were playing it.
Okay, yeah. So you saw it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's really solid. Like I find a lot of like card game video games that make a card game from scratch for the purpose of the game. The card games are not generally like that fun, but this one's like really solid. Like I could see it being like, if they were to make like a multiplayer mod for the game where you could go head to head against other players, I could see it being a thing. It wouldn't work as a physical card game because of a couple of different factors, but like it's a really fun game. It's a really fun card game. But the game has some roguelike qualities. And so roguelike for our non-gamers is a subgenre of video game where generally you play through the game, and if you die, you that's like a perma death. You have to start over from the beginning, kind of like a classic NES game. But the nice thing about roguelikes is that generally with each death you can like unlock things that make it easier for you to survive longer. And so like the easiest one to talk about is a game called Rogue Legacy. I love Rogue Legacy. I played it for tons of hours. But each time you die, like you collect, you go into a castle in Rogue Legacy, and you like fight through the castle, and you collect gold. And when you die, you get to spend that gold on upgrades. Like you can give yourself more health. You can give yourself more attack power. You can unlock new classes and stuff like that. And so that's the major draw of a roguelike. Every time you die, you get you're able to like make it a little bit easier for yourself in future runs somehow.
Okay.
And so the roguelike mechanic that Inscription came up with, and this is really cool, is like when you die, and like you die by losing matches. When you die, you're able to create a custom card using the cards that are already in your deck. So like you can take the cost of one card plus the attack power of another card plus the special effect of another card and make a custom card.
Okay. Sure.
And when you do that, it asks you what you want to name the card. And so I very, very maturely named my cards, named my first card D's.
Right, like D's nuts.
Yeah. And then when I died again, I named my card Joe. And then when I died again, I named my card Ligma, and then Candace. Like this was just the naming scheme I was going for.
Okay.
And so I played the game the other day on stream, and I got up to like the final boss, which was really hard, but it was made a lot easier because I had Joe and Ligma in my deck. And you know, the great thing about the custom cards is they can be really overpowered because you're taking aspects from like a bunch of different cards to make one card. And so you can take like a card that has really good attack power with a card that has no cost, and with another card that has like a really good ability, and combine that all into one like really overpowered card, you know?
Sure.
And so with Joe and Ligma, I was able to like pretty easily make it through the final boss, but then he started using my own cards against me in the final act of the game. He took my customized cards and started playing them into the field. And so D's shows up on the field, right?
Okay.
And D's is a problem card because D's has an ability, and I forget what it's called in the game, but it's similar to an ability in Magic called Death Touch, where, you know, if it hits another card, that card dies. Regardless, like it only had an attack power of 1, but like if it uses its 1 attack power against a card that had 6 health, it would kill it outright because that's just the effect that it had. So D's is like a really strong card, kind of like, you know, kind of dangerous for me.
Sure,
right?
sure.
And so, as part of the mechanic of that fight, throughout that fight, you would accumulate pelts, and you could trade the pelts for cards that were on the board. So, in the middle of this fight, I was able to like take D's and put it onto my own field before it could become a problem for me. So now I had D's, Joe, and Ligma all out on the field at once.
Nice. Oh,
and so finally, like we're getting to the end of this battle, and he pulls out this like super overpowered card, and it's called the Moon. All right, and so the Moon has like 50 health. It attacks every card on the field at once. It can like steal cards from you. All of this stuff, really like not like a problematic as fuck card for me. And because I had D's on the field, who again has Death Touch, I just won the fight in a single turn.
Nice. Oh,
so my D's card fucking clutched the victory and let me win the game.
Oh God, that's great. Nice.
It was so fucking funny. Like I just anybody else might have like named their cards after themselves or named their cards after chat viewers. I decided to be immature and name my cards after stupid jokes, and well, clearly they appreciated it because they helped me win the game.
That's awesome. Since you bring up the fact that you had a card named Joe, I don't know if you heard about this. This just happened today. Did you hear that Joe Biden got caught on a hot mic today?
Yes, I did. I saw the video. It's very funny because you can see him like look down at the microphone and think to himself like, "Is this on?"
Yeah. So for those of you that not knowing what we're talking about, and this isn't in any way political. Like it's just funny that it happened. I love when people get caught on hot mics. Basically, somebody asked him a question that he thought was ridiculous, and he like gave like kind of like a short response, and then he shook his head and said, "What a stupid son of a bitch." And that's fucking hilarious to me. Like, love the guy or hate the guy, I think that's hilarious.
I think it's great. I love it. He's almost like becoming known for those like clapback responses, like in his debate with Trump when he just told him to shut up. Like, again, like love the guy or hate the guy. Like, I still think that's just funny. Either way, exactly. That's just funny. Like, yeah, no, it's awesome. You know, Mac, it's really funny too because if you listen closely, you can hear like a sigh of like, "Oh fuck, this mic is on, isn't it?"
Yeah, no, that's fucking hilarious. It's like when our governor here in Michigan was on mic talking about like Shark Week. Like that was fucking hilarious. Do you remember that?
I did not see that.
Oh yeah, no, like there was one time where like it was like in between like a commercial break, when I think she might have been on TV, and she says like, "It's Shark Week, bitches." Yeah, no, it was super fucking funny. I'll have to find the link and send it to you. But no, I love when, you know, when you've got either a politician or like a celebrity who just comes across as being like super real for you know a moment in time, like how we joked about Obama like needing to adjust his nuts. Like it's just that's just real fucking life, man.
Yeah I'd rather see that, man. I'd rather see it. This fucking politicians are so smart about how they reply to people's questions, but it's so tiring, man.
Yeah.
Like they've got that whole tactic. I don't remember what it's called, where they don't, when it comes to questions they don't like, they don't respond to the question itself, but they'll redirect it into a question that they want to be answering.
Right.
It's like, God, it's really smart, but it's really fucking annoying. I tire of hearing that like corporate speak.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. One other thing I wanted to bring up this week, we've talked a lot about how we've talked about.
Bring it up next week.